Welcome to Obscure Edition. In this mobile game review series, I talk about some free under-the-radar games I've played and still think that they deserve some attention. Let's not wait anymore and give those indies some love. The first game is Nameless Cat by Kotoba Games. It is a linear story-based platformer about a cat that has found itself in a strange afterlife world and now tries to escape it. And this game is a hidden gem. At this moment, Nameless Cat has only 100,000 downloads on Play Store, and that isn't enough for such a nice game. This isn't just an opinion of mine. I've previously posted a GIF of this game on Reddit, and it was received pretty well. And yeah, it had only around 10,000 downloads at the time I've posted this GIF. This game will probably take somewhat like from 2 to 6 hours of your time. The story is engaging, the graphics are stylish and the controls are alright, which is a very important thing for a platformer game. What is also great is that the game continuously keeps introducing new mechanics to play with, which makes you go through this game in one single breath. Nameless Cat doesn't have hidden paywalls or any abusive things like that, but the game might feel a bit difficult, especially if you are not used to mobile platforming controls. Despite there are no abusive mechanics, there are some save checkpoints blocked by rewarded advertisements, but that doesn't feel any aggressive. This is a quite unique and still not very popular classic platformer for mobile and an absolute must for any classic platformer fan on Android. It was a pretty unexpected thing to find while scrolling through the new games section in Play Store. I would totally recommend Nameless Cat. To the next one. The next game is cat-themed too, since cats and games go together. The name is Neko Samurai. This is a very good-looking and well-thought-out reaction game where you play as a cat samurai fighting an endless horde of frogs. The gameplay itself is pretty obvious and doesn't need to be explained in detail. You just have to tap the right side of the screen at the right time. Make a mistake and you will lose a bit of your life bar. It is not a general idea of Neko Samurai what is cool here, but the execution. It is a wholesome game that was made with a minimal amount of assets, and that is what makes it good. The game's mechanics feel comfortable and enjoyable. The characters, environment and other graphics are consistent. The difficulty curve seems fair, since the game doesn't become hard too soon and doesn't seem too easy at the same time. Neko Samurai doesn't force any ads on the player, but there is an option to watch an ad in exchange for second tries or some in-game currency. That is totally understandable and it is a good way to support a game developer if you like. That's a pretty solid action game for mobile, and it even makes me return to it from time to time for some frog slashing action, which is a nice achievement for a small indie game to make someone return to it after some time. Let's move on. The third game is a top-down adventure with a story that is centered on a girl who is locked in a dream and can't wake up. The name is Norris Dream. What is the best thing about this game is a dreamy yet depressing world that is introduced to a player through pretty simple visuals and short bits of girl's story, which is quite saddening actually. I won't spoil it more than that. Let's check some landmarks instead. Here is a fox, here is a cathedral, and here is Nora in space. Oh, and with each tap that a player makes, the game plays a piano melody. The controls are easy to understand, but there are some not very intuitive interface moments, and one strange design idea that might stop a player's progress. Otherwise, the puzzles in Norris Dream are quite logical and can be solved by just some common sense and a bit of exploration. It is a game by a single dev that has somewhat around 5,000 installs on Play Store. It is a pretty small amount of downloads for a game like that, and the game has got a nice reception too, as I can see. Here are some reviews from the Play Store itself. I totally agree with those reviews of Norris Dream, but I have to warn you that the game forces some short skippable ads on the player. I believe that it isn't really a big deal since we basically get this game for free. I would recommend this obscure gem to any adventure lover who is ready to deal with some mechanical and interface roughness. It is a pretty nice experience that might take from 30 minutes to a few hours, depending on how easy the puzzles will be for a player. The next game on my list is Camellia. Just watch. And now it is pretty much obvious what this game is about, but let's talk a bit anyways. This is a weird fighting game set in a TV series drama setting, where some anime girls slap each other because of some inheritance, and that's it. This short game is beautifully done, but you might experience some problems with game's controls. Also, just to warn you, there is an option to watch an ad, so you can continue after a loss, and difficulty might be too hard in the end. So it might feel like Camellia pressures you to watch those ads. Maybe it is actually true. Well, if you'll manage to understand the game's controls, you'll have an hour or two of slapping fun. Good luck! What is more interesting is the game's story. I've posted a gameplay video of the game on Reddit and suddenly realized how many people are familiar with the game and happy to see a mobile port of it. Check out all that praise. Camellia turned out to be a browser flash game series that was originated in 2011. It did age pretty well and feels alright on mobile. It might be a good decision to port other games in the series too. But I believe that they will succeed more as some premium products and not free-to-play games. But that is only an opinion of mine. Also, a greedy free-to-play version possibly might work too, but it will need a serious excuse for a player to stick with the game for a long time. Now, this piece of a game is called Reaper of Immortals and is made by Abaddon Games, an indie developer. It is a pretty interesting and promising action platformer with only something like 100 installs, which is a pretty rare find. I really did want Reaper of Immortals to prove itself to be good, but in the end my feelings about the game are mixed. I really did like the general idea of a platformer action game about a Reaper who has to hunt different characters in the world that is wrapped in nice cute graphics. I really did like riding the orcs while dumping them in water. I really did like exploiting game mechanics to get through the tutorial, and there was a lot of funny stuff like that to do in general. And even if those things were not very proper things to have in a game, I've enjoyed them in a combination with the original idea and feel Reaper of Souls has produced. I actually like it when my games are a bit buggy, but this gate is what had me to stop. Maybe I was blind to notice an obvious way to get around it, maybe it is just broken, but I can't proceed. I can't recommend this Reaper of Souls, to be honest, but I've just had to include this rare find on my list because I really did like what this thing could be and didn't like that the game wasn't properly tested. Come on, I wasn't able to get through the tutorial without some crazy stunts. You can do much better, Abaddon Games. And excuse me if there were some updates on your game and my opinion is outdated. And here is Dungeon Restaurant, the last game in this video. This game with only 5,000 downloads on Play Store might scare some people because of its graphics, but the actual game is pretty interesting. This is a game about cooking in a tavern that is located in a fantasy RPG dungeon and is visited by some fantasy RPG heroes. And you have to cook what they bring to you. Think giant cockroaches, goblin meat, and other stuff like that. You are taking ingredients and doing your stuff with them. Chopping, boiling, grinding, baking. Throw in some salt and pepper too. Of course, there are a lot of games like this one. But Dungeon Restaurant is interesting because of its unusual setting and a pretty detailed cooking process. A player has to follow a recipe in precise details to make sure that things are getting done the right way. The visuals of Dungeon Restaurant might turn some people down, but I didn't experience any negativity with that. I am not that picky about visuals in my indie games. And visuals in Dungeon Restaurant are looking consistent at least, which is enough for a small indie game, I believe. Now here is what I didn't like. While the cooking core of the game is fun, the game itself doesn't feel like a challenge and the player's mistakes are not punished. You can't really fail or lose at this game. There is no actual need to challenge new difficulties, unlock story or compete in any way, and that is sad. Funny thing is that the developer has probably thought about some greedy free-to-play monetization. They have even made an in-game shop, rewarded advertisements and progress time logs, which are skippable with currency from the in-game shop. But in reality the economy itself feels broken and you don't need to skip anything to comfortably play. And the benefits that a player gets from watching ads are barely having any impact. All that stuff is pretty strange. Here is my final opinion on Dungeon Restaurant. It is a nice, free game to play for a few hours if the game's idea is suiting your taste. But there is just not enough stuff to hold you for more time than that. This is an unusual game about cooking some unusual dishes while using a monstrous interface in the process. I didn't talk about the game's interface before, but it should be pretty obvious if you have any eyes. Thank you for watching this video. You are awesome and I appreciate your attention very much. Feel free to leave a comment if you want and I'll surely answer. Also, if you want more stuff like this or you just want to support indie devs, you can share this video somewhere where it will be relevant. That will help. Have a great time. See you again.